This is Great Ducks on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Presented by Jerry's Home Improvement. Better head for Jerry's, locally owned since 1961. Today's broadcast is also brought to you by Country Financial Insurance. Protect what matters. And by Pepsi and Bigfoot Beverages. Go Ducks. Drink Pepsi. Now let's talk some Oregon Ducks greats from the Country Financial Studios alongside Mike Jorgensen, Joey Mack, and Terry Johns. Here's the voice of the Ducks, Jerry Allen.
Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio because we're getting ready to talk with Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, and Terry Johns. This is going to be a lot of fun for all of us here over the course of the next few weeks because one of the things that has happened in lieu of the global pandemic with COVID-19, we won't be having an Oregon football coaches show traditionally like we would during the weeks, but instead we decided, hey, let's do something fun. Let's talk about the history of Oregon athletics, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, it's a little bit different. I'm sitting here inside the Country Financial Studio, but everybody else is joining us from, I don't even know wherever the heck they are. It just depends on where they decided to connect because of the beauties of modern technology. Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns, all joining us, and over the next hour, we're going to highlight the very best wide receivers that have ever donned an Oregon football uniform. So with that, I say hello to everybody, and thanks for joining us. You can interact with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or if you're joining us on one of our Oregon Sports Network affiliate stations, thank you for doing so, and it is a pleasure to have you along with us. All right, I'll go first to the voice of the Ducks, Jerry Allen, because he and Mike Jorgensen have called 3 decades of Oregon football together. We're all getting ready for that spring season, and what the season might look like, we don't know yet, but we can reminisce about some of the best Ducks to ever wear an Oregon uniform, and that's what we're going to do. Jerry, what do you think? You got a few guys in mind?
You know, the toughest part about this, Joey, Jorgie, Terry, good to see you guys, was actually trying to decide who to leave out. So I think we need to do an 8-hour show so that we can really include some guys that should be in there. Jorgie, there's too many to choose from.
Well, there is. Joey says that this is going to be fun. Frankly, for me, it's nerve-wracking because there's so many guys that you could have on that list, and to try to narrow it down to 10 or 15 or 20, it was almost impossible to do that because we all have kind of our favorites here and there. They might not be in the top 10 statistically in every category, but you think about how important they were to the team or the glue of a team or the rhythm that they would have in that chemistry with a certain quarterback. Terry, it's going to be tough to kind of single out 5, 10, or 15 of them, but we all get a chance to talk about a lot of really, really great student athletes who played football at Oregon over time.
Yeah, absolutely, Jorgen. 10, 15, 20. I mean, I don't know. When Joey asked for a list, Scott, to put together some video, I just went off the top of my head, and I had about 11. And then I think it was yesterday or the day before, as I looked through the record book, and I was going, hey, here's some more, as they came to mind. And two, speaking of the record book, sometimes it's the stats. I think we talked about this when we had a meeting the other day, Jorgie, that, sometimes their stats may not be the most impressive if you look at them, but there's different eras. They played less games, different offenses, and those things. But a lot of them, we saw them, and we know how good they are and they were. And, some of the names, some people might disagree with us, and that's okay.
One of the things that I came up with, guys, as I was going through this is I had my list of about 13, and then I had honorable mentions of about 20. And I think now that I'm starting to think about it, I'm looking at our list, actually, because I get to cheat a little bit here, guys, because I actually have the list of everybody that we're going to highlight in front of me that all of you guys submitted. And there's guys on here that I'm like, wait, no, I missed one. So that's going to happen. So I guess we should start with that is, hey, there's a lot of great Ducks that we could highlight on all of these shows as we move forward. And we're just not going to be able to fit it all into an hour. So guys, I mean, what are you doing for the next 8 hours, as you said? Or should we just keep it rolling a little bit longer? I mean, Jerry, thoughts?
Well, I'm ready to go. I mean, sitting here comfortably at home, we can go for 3 days if you want. I don't care, Terry looks like he's comfortable. Jorgie, you're at work. I don't know. Do you get overtime for being there if we keep doing this?
I'm not sleeping here tonight.
Okay. I don't know where to start. Let me start with this. Even though we're having fun and we're reminiscing about the good times, we all know that the fires that are ravaging the West, particularly here in our area in Oregon, our hearts and prayers go out to all of those families, all of those who are involved, and especially the workers, the people who are trying to keep them safe, firefighters and all the volunteers. I mean, what we're doing seems so insignificant compared to what's going on, but what we do learn, guys, Jorge, Terry, Joey, you all know this, life has to go on, and that's why we do what we do. So our hearts and prayers out with you. All right, where do we start? Joey, you have a list. Are we going to start with your list, or what are we doing?
So that's a great question. I think first we should point out that we're not going to list them in any particular order.
No.
All right. If we had tried to do that, I just will be honest, the four of us would have never figured it out. We would have never had any dinners together ever again, because we would have ended up hating each other trying to figure out who the top 10, 15, whatever was. So no particular order. I say, guys, before we take our first time out, and remember, anybody that we miss, fans in the comment section, let us know, because we probably messed it up. I'm the first to say that. Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen, so we'll find out. I vote that Terry Johns goes first because his hand is up, and we say, Terry, you got to go first.
Sure.
Oh, no, I was just going to say also not current players. That was another stipulation that we had. So if you do say, hey, true. I'm playing now, what? You didn't mention me. We're not current players.
That's right. So we made sure to only
now?
have you former guys. I say that you know what? We'll go first. So what we're going to do is kind of go a little round robin, take a few timeouts throughout this as we go. Let's start with Terry Johns, and I'll make sure that we don't miss anybody. Terry, the first guy on your great Ducks list for wide receivers.
Well, he was so good, we called him Bobby Most. He was as a sophomore, he was a wide receiver, and then his junior and senior years, he was a running back. Of course, Bobby Moore, now Ahmad Rashad. But in 1969, his numbers were, 56 catches, 786 yards, almost 15 yards a catch, and 10 scores. And he led the Pac 8 at that time as far as receiving. He was just a phenomenal player, maybe in my opinion. Now, I was in high school watching him, and then when Dan Fouts got there as well. But Tom Blanchard, Jerry knows Tom Blanchard was throwing a lot of passes to him right about that time. But also at that time, it should note, freshmen were ineligible, so he couldn't play. Leland Glass, another one that played with him, same class. In fact, I can remember going and watching the freshman games, and we used to think, I think they may be better than the varsity. When those two were playing, we couldn't wait for them to get to the varsity. They were that good. But then when he got there, but then obviously he'll be on our running backs list as well. But Ahmad Rashad and Bobby Moore was his name while he was playing. Came out of Tacoma, born in Portland, but just phenomenal. In the College Football Hall of Fame, by the way, I think it was 2007 he went in. But then, of course, had a great NFL career. Most of it was with the Minnesota Vikings. But he was phenomenal to watch, just phenomenal.
Probably could have been one of those two-way guys too. He could have played on defense more. List him as an athlete, huh, Joey?
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Terry was actually the only one that had Ahmad Rashad, Bobby Moore on his wide receivers list. So you're starting with the one that's going to create some conversation first, Terry, because I was going to put him on my running back list, but I guess we can just honor him twice because he was that good, right, Jorgie?
Do we have a dual threat category? I can't remember if we do or not, because there's a few of those guys that might fit into that, like a Bobby Moore, Ahmad Rashad, and obviously he made his name as a receiver in the NFL, tremendous receiver for the Minnesota Vikings mostly, and that's what I remember as a kid, But it's funny, Terry, you started there. That's where I want to start too. I want to start with Bob Newland. Bob Newland. Yep. What I feel is one of the top receivers of that era as well, played as a teammate of Bobby Moore, as a teammate of Dan Fouts. He's a University of Oregon Athletics Hall of Famer, the first 1,000-yard receiver, I believe, in Oregon history was Bob Newland. And I'll have you double-check that just to make sure it wasn't Bobby Moore. I think it was Bob Newland. But in an era when players only played 3 years, his last 2 years, 112 catches, almost 1,800 yards, and 10 touchdowns in an era that they didn't throw it 35 or 40 or 45 times. He was the number one receiver in the Pac-8 conference at that point in time. Again, he played with some tremendous players at that time. And again, having Dan Fouts throw a ball to you, a future NFL Hall of Famer himself, not bad to be on the receiving end of that. But well, I tell you, Bob Newland was really good. Born in Medford, North Eugene High School graduate, a Eugene guy through and through. I love the way that he played football back then. And again, in an era that really you wouldn't pay attention to receivers with a lot of yards, he was one of those guys, the first 1,000-yard receiver in Oregon history.
Yeah, and I was going to say, too, he and Jerry, I don't want to jump in here because I might say who you're talking about. Leland Glass was the other wideout who's also on my list. But I think that is partly what enabled Bobby Moore to Ahmad Rashad to move over to tailback. Plus, I think they wanted to get the ball in his hands as much as they could and put him at tailback. But I think they had such great wide receivers in Bob Newland and Leland Glass at that time that they could afford to move Bobby Moore to tailback.
Now, before we give it back to Joey and get a break in here, we'll probably need to get one. I just want to mention that it's a great point, is that some of these guys excel when they had 2 or 3 people at a receiver group or as a running back who's a great receiver, they did the same thing. So some of these guys had to share the ball. Bobby Moore was one you didn't care if anybody to share it with, just get the ball in his hands. Joey?
I think this is awesome already because you guys went through so many great guys. I joked when I was talking about the fact that we were going to do the show on Duck Insider that you guys have watched so much football compared to me that I was just going to get out of the way and not say anything. And that's exactly what I'm going to do because we're going to get a timeout. And then we're going to come back and talk about some of these other guys. We also have some great highlights to show you for those of you who are watching. So stick with us. It's Great Ducks, wide receivers, the position that we're featuring today. We're back right after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Mountain Dew Zero Sugar presents an original that's now maybe even better. Mary had a little lamb.
Mary had a bottle of Mountain Dew Zero Sugar with the same refreshing taste as the original, but with zero sugar. Same refreshing taste as the original, but with zero sugar. Same refreshing taste as the original, but with zero sugar. Mary had a bottle of Mountain Dew Zero Sugar. Let's taste was as good as the original, maybe even better.
Mountain Dew Zero Sugar, as good as the original, maybe even better.
Make a trip to the epicenter of Oregon wine country and visit Elizabeth Chambers Cellar. Our wines are crafted authentically in an old-world style in one of McMinnville's most historic working wineries. Let our staff lead you through a tasting of highly rated wines. Our newly renovated tasting room is chic and urban. It's no wonder people are talking about Elizabeth Chambers Cellar, now offering private seated tastings. Call us to find out more information or to make your reservation today. Elizabeth Chambers Cellar is open daily from 11 to 5. Find us online at ElizabethChambersCellar.com.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
More Great Ducks talk comes after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Okay, forest animals, kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow, have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. River, how's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man.
I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. Okay. Squirrel.
The forest has been preparing just for you. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
To Great Ducks here from inside the Country Financial Studio. Joey Mack, joined remotely by the entire Oregon broadcast crew as Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns are with us. We've had so many great suggestions already, guys, coming in on the comment section, and one that I know that Jerry's going to bring up. So I don't want to give too much credit away from Jerry yet, and we go back to now Jerry Allen. Jerry, who's your pick? Who's the next guy that we're featuring on our Great Ducks list?
Yeah, well, the next guy we're going to feature, and there could be one of probably 10 guys that we can put at the top of the list, but I'm going to say Jeff Maehl. Jeff Maehl played in 34 consecutive games. He was a warrior. When you look at what he accomplished, top 10 in career yards with over 2,300 yards, tied for first in career TDs with 24 with guys like Huff, Howery, Macklemore. I mean, and of course, in that championship game, he gave Oregon a chance with some huge catches. Jorgie, I love me some Jeff Maehl.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you're looking for a top, he's about as close as I can put at the top, just based on everything that he did. You see some of the big plays that he had throughout his career, whether it be some of those touchdown catches at USC, the one that he kind of bobbled and caught, the touchdown with Auburn. Obviously, the great comeback down in Tucson with Jeremiah Masoli at the quarterback position, the catch he made in the back of the end zone to kind of get him further along. And again, he was a guy, there was just something different about him. Not only did the stats look great, but he's a defensive back, remember, that became a wide receiver, and he played that way. Across the middle, no fear whatsoever. He'd take a shot right back up, kind of deal it out half the time. He's the guy, I tell you what, that I'm glad you brought him up right away, because he's the guy I featured throughout all of my my receivers that I looked at, Jeff Maehl, the Maehl man.
Jorgie, you mentioned exactly what I was going to bring up. Jeff Maehl's the guy that was on my list. And everybody's going to notice that the 27-year-old here is going to have a little bit of recency bias to his picks. Sorry. It was a golden era of Oregon football, though, in the last, 10, 20 years. I think I at least have a little bit of an excuse. I just love the way Jeff Maehl played the game. He seemed to just give everything up. Hey, I want to go right back to Jerry Allen. One more pick, Jerry. Who's the next guy that you want to highlight here?
Well, it was a speedster. I mean, you just, get out of his way because you couldn't keep up with him. And if you didn't start running down the field when he did, you weren't going to catch him. That's Sammy Parker. Sammy Parker was just plain fun. I mean, I see him in that Fiesta Bowl, Harrington going back, and just throwing the ball as far as he can. And Sammy said, no problem, throw it outside the stadium. I'll go get it for you. He had uncanny speed, the ability to get himself open. And he worried cornerbacks and he worried safeties because they always had to know where he was on the field. I think he made guys better around him. He holds or is tied with 16 records in a game, 78 for a season. That's in receptions, by the way, 178 receptions for his career, fourth on the season and first on the career receiving yards list. He's at the top of almost everything. Speed kills.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting you bring up Jeff Maehl and Sammy Parker, Jerry, because you mentioned the records. It's really amazing. And this is one of those stat book oddities that always has gotten me. Jeff Maehl, Sammy Parker, both with 77 catches in a season. That's a record. 178 in a career for Jeff Maehl and Sammy Parker. That's also a record. I mean, how does that happen? That the same two guys have the individual season record and the career record, Terry. I mean, you've never seen it. I've never seen anything like that in a record book, Terry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, two great receivers, but like Jerry was talking about, Sammy Parker, I'll never forget that buff kicking at the Fiesta Bowl, and the long pass. That was when everybody thought that, and that was when Mike Bellotti thought the Ducks should be in taking on Miami. I think down at the Rose Bowl instead of Nebraska, who Colorado beat in the Big 12 championship, yes, if I remember right, or was it their rival, and just pummeled them. And Colorado, it was New Year's, and I remember going down to Mill Avenue, down there for the New Year's celebration. Colorado fans, they were so sure they were going to kick the Ducks' butt. And like I said, it was just a good old buff kick in the Ducks when Joey Harrington throwing that deep ball to Sammy Parker. And it was just, it was impressive. And that's, that was a big game. Of course, Joey Harrington years. And, of course, before that in the Holiday Bowl with Texas and stumbling into the end zone. But where we were just like, man, this can Oregon get to be an elite program? And that was a big step in that game.
This is cool to hear you guys talk about these stories. This is why I said I was just going to get out of the way, so I'm going to do that again. And we're going to get a quick timeout, come back. Mike Jorgensen's next pick for a great duck that we're going to highlight from the wide receiver position. Great ducks, this has already been a lot of fun for us, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll take some of your comments and questions, and we'll see at the end if we missed anybody on our list today. Again, we could mention a ton of different ducks. There's been a lot of great ones over the years. We're back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
What's it like to grow with the O? At OCCU, we support Duck fans each step of the way by educating our youth with Lucky Duck Savings, celebrating independence with Duck Debit Checking, and rewarding members with the Duck Credit Card. That's how Duck fans grow with OCCU. Learn how you can too at myoccu.org/ducks.
Ninkasi Brewing is proud to be an official partner of the Oregon Sports Network. Independently owned and brewed in Eugene since 2006, Ninkasi is thrilled to launch the GOAT Pack, the greatest of all time IPAs, their first all-can variety 12-pack featuring Total Domination Northwest IPA, Tricera Hops Double IPA, Prismatic Juicy IPA, and new and exclusive Juicy Domination Tropical IPA. Find it on shelves now. More information at ninkasibrewing.com.
You're listening to Great Ducks on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The Country Financial Studio, Joey Mack here with you. Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns joining us remotely for Great Ducks, our new weekly show. Every Tuesday, 5 o'clock, we'll feature a different position. Today, we start with wide receivers. And before we get to Jorgie on his next choice, we've got our highlight of the week brought to you by Dairy Mart. And, I mean, we talked about so many different great catches in the history of Oregon football. But the thing is, when there's one that gets called the catch, I feel like you kind of have to choose that one for your Dairy Mart highlight of the week.
The call of the game with Jerry Allen.
The great but irritating part about the Pat Johnson touchdown in Seattle on the pass from McKeely was that in Husky Stadium, we're so high and so far back, you can't really see that far side of the end zone. So McKeely throws this rainbow. Patrick dives out to get it. When he comes down, I've got to wait 2 or 3 seconds before I know whether it's a touchdown.
Over the middle, back to throw. There it is. No, they're going deep. They want to go to Patrick. He's there. Touchdown, Oregon. He made the catch. Patrick Johnson, unbelievable. I had to wait to see if the ball went on the turf. What a pass. I had to wait to see if it could be true. Perfect pass. Perfect catch. Highlight film stuff. Oregon's taking the lead.
The players can already see he's in. Yeah, it's good.
So awesome. When we found the full call of the game with Jerry Allen, I had to bring the whole thing back. Jerry, the Aviators looked great. The catch was even better. That's your highlight of the week, brought to you by Dairy Mart and Lockmeat Family, the local stop for fresh to-go lunch, thirst-quenching drinks, and award-winning ice cream. Go Ducks, and thanks to Dairy Mart. Jerry, so you said it there that it's unfortunate you had to wait to make the call, but I thought the call was great. It's one of my favorites, actually, over the years.
Well, actually, I think a lot of fans who were at the game were waiting to see for sure. I think the Washington fans were he was out of bounds. The Oregon fans obviously were doing, it's a touchdown. Jordy, it was an emotional moment because it was in Seattle, and I think that's the same game that Pat opened with a kickoff, bounced into a big pile in the middle, and everybody thought he was down and then gone. But if they reviewed this, I'm glad they didn't because it was close.
Yeah, it's never any better than doing it in Husky Stadium, right? I mean, that's what makes it partially the catch. It was a great catch and a great throw, obviously, by Achilles Smith. But it just, again, doing it up there just makes it extra special. And, Patrick Johnson was such a speedster, such a big play guy. A lot of his average per catch is what really pushes him up in the record books. And his, season stats, his one big season they had over 1,000 yards receiving, the average per catch was just amazing because of the big plays. An All-American sprinter, 100-meter guy. I tell you what, if he ran by you, like I can remember in the Las Vegas Bowl in 1997, the combination of he and Saladin McCullough, but it all got started with a 69-yard touchdown pass to Patrick Johnson right there where nobody just could even hang with him. He just ran right past him. So he was a special, special player, no doubt about it. And like you said, if he got past you, it was over.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites to watch. Just watch you look at the highlights. I mean, it's really pretty cool to look back at him. All right, Jorgie, you're up. Next guy that you want to highlight after Patrick Johnson.
Boy, tough, Joey. I'll tell you. I mean, I was looking at my list during the break, and I kind of focused in either on Tony Hartley or Keenan Howery, and I'm going to go with Keenan Howery because imagine Sammy Parker and Keenan Howery on the same team at the same time. And that's why I'm going to him, because he made big catch after big catch. He's a guy, obviously, he'll probably find his way into the special teams top 10. But again, in that Colorado game, when Sammy Parker caught the long pass for the touchdown, that helped Oregon take the lead. Joey Harrington hit him for a touchdown, actually, to get Oregon on the board to tie it 7-7 right down the middle. But he was a multi-dimensional guy. You look at his stats, 173 career receptions. That's fourth on the list. Third in yardage at almost 2,700. 4 TD receptions against Arizona State in 2001. That's number one all time. Nobody's ever matched it. And he's tied for number one in career TDs at 24. Played for the Vikings, big plays. There's the punt return that you see right there that broke the Beavers back in that particular game and sent Oregon on, I believe, to that Fiesta Bowl. But again, Keenan Howery, I really love the way the guy played. So smooth, not big, but I tell you, watch out, and he was gone. And great player, great kid, too.
Who's next? Terry?
Yeah, I get Terry's turn. Yeah.
I'm going to steal it. I'm going to steal it from you, Jerry. Tony Hartley. But you guys can talk about him because you remember him playing probably better than I do. I remember watching because I wasn't on the broadcast team, I think, until maybe his last couple of years. But in particular, you look at his junior year, 48 catches, 1,015 yards, 21.1 yards per catch. I mean, I think he's the only Duck, I think, in the record book that I could find that was over 20 yards per catch. Just a phenomenal player. And mainly what I remember is just some phenomenal catches that he made that you just couldn't believe it. And, maybe some situations in games that you guys might remember as you were calling them. Jerry?
Well, I'm not going to pick any individual games. I'm going to say two things about him. I think he was a phenomenal route runner. He knew how to pick a place on the field. He could get there, and he just had a great, symbiotic relationship with the quarterback. They just were on the same wavelength. He was a tough guy to cover. But Jorgie, as a quarterback, which you were, when you got a guy that runs a great route, I think Tony Hartley did. It just makes you better.
Yeah, I think, Jerry, you said exactly what I was thinking. He wasn't a Patrick Johnson speed burner or a Sammy Parker type of speed burner, even though he had good speed. But his routes were so precise that he could get in the right spot at the right time, turn people around, get them off balance. And then he had the stickiest, and I don't know if his fingers were longer than most, but the way that he would catch the ball and the way that he would palm it when he would go across the goal line or handle the ball like a loaf of bread. Usually coaches don't like to see that, but he just never fumbled because he had those big, sticky hands. It could catch everything. A tremendous receiver, a great target for Achilles Smith, and I really enjoyed watching him play while I was in Oregon.
Yeah,
we got to take a
senior
quick
year
time
was
out.
A.J.
Oh, sorry,
Feely
go
and
ahead.
Joey Harrington, I think. I was going to say his senior, I think it was A.J. Feely and Joey Harrington. He was part of, I think, the origination of Joey Comeback.
Yeah. We're going to have to highlight a lot of different other guys. Origination. It originated. Yeah, I'm in. Why not? It is now. Terry Johns, Mike Jorgensen, Jerry Allen. I'm Joey Mack. More coming up inside the Country Financial Studio. Quick timeout. I got a few guys actually that are on my list that haven't come up yet. So who knows? Maybe I will actually bring one up here at some point. My turn when we come back? All right. It's Great Ducks. We're talking wide receivers. We're back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Hey, Oregon fans, if you can hear this broadcast, you're close to a delicious Deschutes Brewery beer, like Wowza, a full-flavored yet crushable hazy pale ale with only 100 calories and 4 grams of carbs. Speaking of Wowza, did you know the term wow is an interjection, an energetic add-on word, like ah, pshaw, and fiddle-dee-dee? Well, I imagine some less radio-friendly exclamations fit in there too. Anyway, if you think you need a reason to salt your language, try a Wowza, now available everywhere in the Pacific Northwest. Deschutes Brewery, Bend, Oregon. It comes with the territory.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
All it takes is one drop to make a wave. One beat to inspire a track. One spark to get creativity flowing. With every drop, Life Water refreshes your mind and restores your body. Purified water, pH balanced with electrolytes for taste. Designed with original works of art on every bottle. Let us be your source of inspiration. Life Water, the feel-good water.
You're listening to Great Ducks on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Tweens have mastered the art of tuning out. Jen, there's a spider in the car. We're turning your room into a home gym. See? Nothing. But some messages need to get through. Like making sure they're buckled up the whole ride, every time. Do whatever it takes to make your child listen. Jen, I friended your boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Buckle up, sweetie.
Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace. Learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org. Because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back inside the Country Financial Studio. Joey Mack here with you. Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns joining us on the line. Great Ducks, our new show that will feature a different position every week. We continue. I'll go this time. And, one that we've heard a lot of is Joe Reitzig, but I'm going to defer that one to the guys who watch that guy play. But that's actually, guys, maybe been the most commented so far that I've seen. But I'm actually going to pick Josh Huff to be on my list. Josh, I will never forget, one, his poise and leadership. And with Josh Huff, that catch in the back of the end zone in the Civil War to win that Civil War. I mean, that to me was Josh Huff in a nutshell. He just had so many clutch moments, and I just loved the way that Josh Huff played the game of football. He's one that I think of in sort of the modern era of Oregon football that was just solid all the time, and I loved watching Josh Huff play. Jerry, what do you remember about Mr. Huff?
Well, again, Josh Huff was one of those receivers that Marcus Mariota knew he could get the ball in an area, and Josh Huff would be there. I don't know if it was speed, Jorgie, or route running, or just that innate feeling of knowing where the defense was finding the hole, and then Marcus would find him. But they had a connection together. If it was a big play that Marcus needed, Huff was usually the guy he went to.
Yeah, Jerry, I think it was both. I think it was speed and the route running. And frankly, he's one of those guys that you and I know over time when we're out watching practice, there's always a few guys that come in physically ready to play as true freshmen. We've seen it with Royce Freeman. We've seen it with other guys where they look like they're 21 years old even though they're 18. He was one of those guys, so he was ready-made to play from the get-go. And I'll tell you, you think about it, he played for two pretty darn good quarterbacks in Darrin Thomas and Marcus Mariota. So he was a good player, no doubt about it. He had some good guys delivering it to him, but he was a special player. And again, one of those multi-dimensional guys that can not only hurt you on offense, but can hurt you special teams if Oregon wanted to do it with him. So, yeah, Josh Huff, that's a great pick, Joey.
Terry Johns, you do all great interviews too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've talked with Josh back then, and what a terrific human being he is. I remember one thing I remember a play about him was at Stanford. And I don't know whether it was Marcus or Darrin that threw it to him, but I think it was a quick out on the right sideline, and he just exploded for about 40 yards. And I remember just seeing that you could tell the Stanford sideline, they look like, we don't have that kind of speed. It was kind of humiliated. And I know the Ducks won there. And, and Josh wasn't a speedster, but he was fast enough. He was one of those. But, I remember interviewing him, Joey, you brought that up, and I'm glad you did, because he did a lot of things off the field. I have two special needs daughters, and I saw him doing some things with some special needs kids, and there were pictures, and he just did it out of the kindness of his heart. And I remember telling him, hey, that I have a couple kids, and I hope you know how much that means to parents of special needs kids, and he appreciated that. But he's a good young man.
Great young man, and he's top 10 in pretty much every career category, some single-season records as well. In fact, guys, the next guy, if I could, that I wanted to point to is a guy who had a great individual season in addition to a great career, and that's Dillon Mitchell. Dillon Mitchell, the season record for receiving yards, and Josh Huff was the record holder prior to Dillon Mitchell, but Dillon did make some pretty amazing plays, didn't he, Jerry?
Yeah, he was, again, he's one of those guys. He just wanted to get the ball in his hands and then see what he would do with it. He had great speed. He had great route running ability. And isn't it amazing, Jorgie, when you talk about some of the great wide receivers or receivers that Oregon has had through the years, they all sort of have those same tangibles. Some have some intangibles, but they all have toughness. They speed to some degree, and the ability to run a great route and connect with their quarterback. A lot of these guys are so very much alike. D. Mitch was a little different. He was special.
Yeah, those are all good points, Jerry. And I think one of the things that we really saw, particularly that huge year that he had, we saw the confidence blossom against Stanford in Autzen Stadium. The huge game he had against the Cardinal in that particular game. He became a different receiver from that game forward to me, and he was always good. There's no doubt about it. He became great at that point in time. The confidence level skyrocketed. He became a go-to guy, sometimes in double coverage type of situations. People could just not handle him. And obviously he capped it off with that Red Box Bowl victory, the touchdown catch, the only touchdown Oregon scored in that game. And again, a go-to guy. It's just too bad that he didn't have 2 or 3 of those years together, because that last year was something special, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
Terry
absolutely.
Johns?
Yes, sir.
Your pick, buddy.
All right. I'm going to go, since you mentioned Josh Huff, so I'm going to go with Braylon Addison, who was catching balls from Mariota, Marcus. And then, of course, 2014, he missed that year because I think he had an ACL, if I'm not mistaken. Came back 2015 with Vernon Adams. And the catch that we have that still picture of that everybody's seen on social media and everywhere, where his tippy toes were in, where back in the day before replay, they called it incomplete. But I don't know if the guys have that one, but it was just the tippy toes, and then they reviewed it and correctly called it a catch. It was an NFL catch before it was ready, but then I know he's gone on to the Canadian Football League. By the way, a lot like Josh Huff, as far as personality-wise, another nice young man that I remember interviewing for the pregame show and did a lot of nice things around the community off the field.
Well, I'm going to mention very quickly about Braylon Addison. I thought he had some real toughness. He was a guy that get the ball in my hands, and I'm going to find a way to go through you, not around you. I'll get to the end zone. And I appreciated that about Braylon Addison. He was the man out on the field.
Yeah, he was a great returner.
He was.
Yes.
He probably also could have played quarterback if he really wanted to, right, Jorgie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was a tremendous athlete, smooth. That's what I really liked about him, is he was just so smooth and tough. It just looked so effortless, whatever he did, including a lot of the catches that he had. But again, he was a guy that was a multi-talented athlete out of the state of Texas. I think was a pretty good high school quarterback down there. So the transition from a quarterback to a pure wide receiver isn't the easiest thing in the world. And yet he was one of those special guys. Is it my turn? Do I get a chance to pick?
Absolutely.
Okay. Demetrius Williams. You know, there's a couple of Williamses that you could choose from, Jason Williams or Demetrius Williams. I'm going to start with Demetrius Williams. Again, you look at from a record book standpoint, I don't mean to go to the stats all the time, but number 3 in games, 12 receptions in a game, that's number 3 all-time. Number 5 all-time receptions for a career. Number 7 in yards in a season, 1,000-yard receiver, 1,059 in 2005. Most of it was from Kellen Clemens. He was just one of those guys, again, that was a go-to smooth guy. The guy that every time you came up to the line of scrimmage as a defense, you had to find him on the field because he was going to beat you in some way, shape, or form. And again, anytime you got a guy like Kellen Clemens delivering the pill right on the money, guys like that are going to have big seasons, but very talented, very high-end type of guy, made a lot of plays, ton of touchdown catches. Demetrius Williams, I love the way that he played football.
One word comes to mind for me when I think of Demetrius Williams. He was sneaky. I mean, he was a guy that and you said it, Jorgie, if you didn't know where he was, you turn your eyes, he knew. He took advantage of that opportunity. If you gave him just a little crease, he was going to burn you. He was sneaky.
I don't know that I've ever heard that description for a football player before, but it seems very fitting. Well done. Good work, Jerry. We're going to get a quick timeout. We got a few more guys to highlight. Also, our Pepsi Player Spotlight, we will talk about some of the guys that are on the current roster, and we might be talking about on our next iteration of Great Ducks. We got more coming up from the Country Financial Studio after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
What's it like to grow with the O? At OCCU, we support Duck fans each step of the way by educating our youth with Lucky Duck Savings, celebrating independence with Duck Debit Checking, and rewarding members with the Duck Credit Card. That's how Duck fans grow with OCCU. Learn how you can too at myoccu.org/ducks.
Make a trip to the epicenter of Oregon wine country and visit Elizabeth Chambers. Our wines are crafted authentically in an old-world style in one of McMinnville's most historic working wineries. Let our staff lead you through a tasting of highly rated wines. Our newly renovated tasting room is chic and urban. It's no wonder people are talking about Elizabeth Chambers Cellar, now offering private seated tastings. Call us to find out more information or to make your reservation today. Elizabeth Chambers Cellar is open daily from 11 to 5. Find us online at elizabethchamberscellar.com.
More Great Ducks talk comes after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
All right, everybody in the car. Let's go.
What are we going to do first when we get there, Mom? Go for a hike?
Sure.
What about canoeing? Can we go canoeing too?
I don't see why.
How long does it take to get to the forest?
It's not that far, sweetie.
Are we there yet?
Yep, we're here.
Already?
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
They say that car crashes happen in slow motion. The reality is that crashes happen fast. There's no time to think and no time to check if your child is in the right car seat. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your kids in the right seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Get more info at safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio for Great Ducks, talking wide receivers in our first show this week. Thanks for all your comments. Guys, the biggest I think that I saw was Joe Reitzig, a guy that we're going to mention here in a moment. But time first for your Pepsi Player Spotlight. And, it's maybe a coincidence, a good coincidence, that we were talking wide receivers on our first show after Johnny Johnson III said that in that spring season that we're all anticipating for Oregon football, he's going to be coming back. Johnny Johnson's had some great individual performances, guys, and he's just one individual on this roster, Jorgie. And I'll go to you for a second just to talk about this wide receiver group that the Ducks have coming back for this upcoming season.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Johnny Johnson because we love the way that what he's become. I mean, he's the type of guy I don't think that really anybody thought was going to be a high-end receiver, and he just kept working and working and working, and he's become a go-to guy, a confident guy. I love Johnny Johnson. I'm a huge fan of his, was last year, and he just continues to evolve and make that team as tough as it is because of how tough he is and what he's become.
There's going to be a few guys that are on our list here moving forward as we do future Great Ducks shows. Our Player Spotlight always brought to you by Pepsi and locally owned Bigfoot Beverages. Go Ducks, drink Pepsi. All right, we'll have to go a little bit quick, guys. We could have put a lot of other guys on this list. Jerry Allen, rapid fire. Who you got next?
Well, I'm going to go Christian McLemore. What he meant to Oregon in the year they went to the Rose Bowl in '95 was, you just can't put a title on it. He was phenomenal. He's a guy that was injury-plagued his whole senior season. Couldn't hardly practice till Thursday. Will come out and be spectacular. He had 11 catches, I think, against Stanford. He had a tremendous catch against Penn State in that Rose Bowl. Christian McLemore was electric. He was exciting.
Mike Jorgensen, you're next.
Well, the Stanford Cardinal hated him, by the way, Jerry. He had 11 receptions twice against those guys. So that's not a guy they wanted to see very often. Well, a couple of guys I'll mention real quick. Jason Williams. Again, one of those quiet guys I think that everybody forgets about and where he sits in the Oregon record book. Big receiver. One of those guys that was just big and physical. And again, just one of those guys you want to have if you're a quarterback. Big physical, can put it up where he can get it, nobody else can. Jason Williams would be one of those. A teammate of mine, too, I'm going to say, Lou Barnes. A little scat back type of guy that was really, really quick. Could do about anything you can imagine. Played with Chris Miller, played with myself. Most of his receptions obviously came from Chris Miller because I couldn't hit him. But he, was a tremendous receiver. And one of those punt returners, too. One of those dual threat guys.
Terry Johns, who's on your list still?
Well, I love Jason Williams, like Jorgie was talking about, number 2 all-time in career 100-yard receptions, and Demetrius with 11 and Jason with 10. So the key is receivers recruit Williams. I guess that's what you need to do if you want catches. I've got Byron Marshall is one that I didn't have him on my main list, but I think he was crucial at a time when they moved him from running back and moved him from wide receiver, and he didn't skip a beat. He was just phenomenal. Another one of those young guys. Like I said, I mean, you guys, you and Jorgie get to know him. Jerry, you and Jorgie, and Joey, you as well. I get to know the guys. I do when I do the pregame show and do interviews with them. I chat with them before we start recording, and he was just one of my favorite guys. DeAnthony Thomas, another one. Not necessarily a wide receiver position-wise, but no doubt that's what he could have played, and with that speed, and he's still bouncing around the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, still with the Ravens. Maybe you guys know, but just a couple guys coming to my mind. I still have several more on the list, but pass it along to who, Joey?
Well, I'm going to jump in really quick and tell you there's two guys. One in particular I never forget. We talk wide receivers in my career. Joe Reitziger played with Bill Musgrave. He was a Steve Largent kind of guy. Didn't have the speed, didn't have the size. He just caught everything near him. And
Terry Obi.
Yep.
I had to mention Terry Obi. That was almost the Dairy Mart highlight of the week, actually, Jerry, was the Obi end around. I was that close to picking that one. I wanted to have some fun with it. Man,
how about Charles Nelson, Damon Griffin, Marshawn Tucker?
Keep going. I mean, that's the best part about this, though, guys, is we could name everybody. That was a fast hour. Hey, thanks to all the fans for joining us. I saw a lot of great comments. Thanks for being here. Terry Johns, Mike Jorgensen, Jerry Allen, Mitchell Lee back in studio. To Scott LeBounty for helping us with video, Scott Phillips as well. This was a group effort, and we're going to do it again next Tuesday. Cornerbacks. We'll see you then.
Okay, man. This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now.